Hellboy is back this time with a super short comic book series with an homage to John Carpenter's The Fog. What is it about? Let's find out, but not before you tap on that subscribe button to always stay updated with our content. Thank you. Now let's begin. A little about The Fog. If you haven't had the pleasure of seeing John Carpenter's 1980 film, The Fog yet, or have simply forgotten what it was about, we have you covered. Antonio Bay is a small coastal town in Northern California. On April 21st, 1880, a clipper ship named Elizabeth Dane was deliberately wrecked by 6 people there to prevent the owner of the ship, a leprosy-afflicted man named Blake, from establishing a colony of lepers there. The 6 people then stole the gold on the ship and used it to establish Antonio Bay. 100 years later, the story has moved away from reality. People talk about the ship that wrecked after mistaking a campfire for a lighthouse while travelling through thick fog as a made-up tale to scare kids. But that day, the crew of the Elizabeth Dane returns to avenge themselves. The ghosts kill 6 people of the town to match the 6 founders who had killed them and go back only after some of their gold is returned to them. Now, this spooky story is not completely copied in the Hellboy comic, but borrows a lot of elements, as you are about to see. Here come the spirits, Hellboy and the Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense. The Ghost Ships of Labrador is a 2-part comic book written by Mike Mignola and Rob Williams, with art from Lawrence Campbell. The story begins at Red Bay, Labrador, a small coastal town much like Antonio Bay. There are very few people in the town, just around 260, and the town has more shipwrecks than it does people. From 1530 to 1700, the tumultuous waters of Red Bay were often visited by Basque galleons, mostly for whaling. If you are not a history buff, whaling was quite a profitable business back then, as whale oil was highly prized and used all across Europe. Every season, over 15 ships and 600 men frequented the waters, despite many not returning home. They looked death in the eye and promised to return once again for the Balia Baya, the whale bay. A place that has seen so many deaths is obviously no stranger to ghost stories. Many were told to kids as stories of boogeyman or around the campfire. There were whispers of ghost ships seen in the waters at night, lights that would flicker amidst the mist and disappear. Some even heard whale calls that sounded like human screams. Then one day, stories stopped being stories. An uncanny mist enveloped the town and ghosts began to be seen. They threatened the townspeople to leave town. As Red Bay, they claimed, belongs to them, ghosts were seen in bars, houses, and inns. This was strange, as ghosts usually haunted the place they died and could not travel away from it. These ghosts were different though. They had a goal in mind and had travelled from afar to take over Red Bay. As all the townspeople leave home in hordes, BPRD field agent and exorcist Agatha Blunt is sent to Red Bay. As she enters the town, a police officer looks at her in disbelief. She climbs out of the car in her wheelchair with her faithful furry companion Elba, while the officer keeps asking her the big questions. Yes, she is an exorcist and an agent, and in a wheelchair. Stop asking her questions you know the answer to. But I guess after you just watch a town taken over by ghosts, it is hard for you to believe your eyes. He is impressed by the modifications she has done to her car by rearranging the brake and gas pedals onto the dashboard. Agatha is pretty professional and begins asking questions about the hauntings. The officer tells her that the hauntings started with the mist, and now the mist is so thick that no one can see Red Bay now. She leaves, asking him to use the phone in her car if she doesn't return soon. And now come the cavalry. Sometime later, the officer finds her wheelchair, empty except for 2 crabs, and dashes over to her car. The call goes to Hellboy and the officer, and 22.5 hours after Agatha's disappearance, Hellboy arrives in town with Abe, Sapien. As they head into the mist too, the officer clutches the cross around his neck and begins a prayer. Now, whether he is praying to make sure Hellboy and Abe don't disappear, or he's praying to protect himself from Hellboy and Abe, is something you will have to figure out on your own. Abe suggests having a plan, and Hellboy shows his fists, saying they are all the plans he needs. Inside Red Bay, they see 2 skeletons skeletons worshipping a street lamp and singing its praises. Abe asks them if they are new in town, and they tell him that they recently laid anchors. The two spirits are best friends, named Elson and Leonidas, who are simply delighted to be on solid land amidst lights. When Hellboy asks them why they arrived at Red Bay, they look scared and tell him that he won't allow them to say. Abe wants to know more about this mysterious he, but Hellboy's focus is on Agatha, and that is what he asks them about. Elson says that Vano is holding Agatha and her dog captive in the tavern, and Leonidas immediately shuts him up. Though Leonidas wants Elson to shut up, Elson slips up and reveals that the mist is supposed to cover the entire town. As they enter the tavern, aptly and creepily named the Wailer's Lament, they see Elba, but Hellboy is punched out by a giant spirit with chains around him. This ghost, called Vino, yells at Elson and Leonidas for their betrayal and stupidity and commands Hellboy to leave as Red Bay belonged to them. He declares that they will no longer sail and grabs Abe in a chokehold. A fierce fight follows, but Hellboy defeats Vino with his own chains. Elba barks at the door where Agatha is tied up, and Abe frees her. Hellboy asks all of the ghosts to leave as it is not their town, and as soon as Agatha's gag is removed, she calls them an idiot. She had figured out that the ghosts were not there to take over Red Bay, but were taking refuge in Red Bay after running away from the ghost ship San Juan, which was hungry for more crewmates. As if on cue, a huge ship with a shark-like mouth bites down on the tavern, and Hellboy is sucked into the ship. Verdict. As far as first issues go, this was not very informative. There is a lot of confusion as to why the ship had a mouth or why it ate people, but I guess the next issue will give us the answers. My prediction is that the San Juan was haunted by the ghost of a shark the crew of the ship had killed. It is also possible that Vino was enslaved on the ship and hence the chains around him. What are your predictions for the next issue? Let us know in the comments below, and if you liked the video, you know what to do. Tap on that thumbs up. We will soon be back with more awesome stuff, and until then, goodbye.